Snow crunched beneath Jon's boots as he made his way toward the godswood, Ghost silent at his side. The wind bit through his cloak, but he welcomed the cold. It was honest, unlike the warmth of the great hall where secrets rotted beneath feasts. And firelight, he needed air, needed space, needed to stop seeing Eddard Stark's face in every shadow and asking questions the man had never answered. Since the war, since Daenerys's dragonfire had razed King's Landing, Jon's mind had been a battlefield of guilt and silence. He'd put a blade through her heart, ending one war only to begin a war within himself. She had called him family, called him the last Targaryen. But what did that even mean? He wasn't a Targaryen. He couldn't be. He wasn't a dragon. He was ice, snow, silence, the North. He was Jon Snow, but his dreams said otherwise. He kept waking to the sound of roaring flames, a city of ash, a baby crying in a room of stone, then a name whispered over and over, Aegon. He knelt beneath the heart tree, the red leaves trembling in the wind, and whispered, "What am I?" The face carved into the weirwood stared back at him, judging, or was it mourning? Later that night, Sam found him in the crypts. The Citadel-trained Maester had returned to Winterfell bearing scrolls he hadn't dared show Jon until now. The flickering torch in Sam's hand barely touched the darkness clinging to the stone walls. "You need to see this," Sam said, not bothering with pleasantries. Jon raised an eyebrow. "More secrets? More truth." Sam unrolled the scroll. His hands were trembling. It wasn't just the truth about Jon's parentage. That had already shaken Jon once. But this was worse. Buried in Maester diaries, sealed Targaryen letters, even one lost message from King Jaehaerys himself. It painted a different story of the North, one no bard dared to sing. "Winterfell wasn't built by Brandon the Builder," Sam whispered. "Not completely." Jon narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" "There are Valyrian symbols beneath the crypts, deep beneath where even the Starks stopped digging. Symbols, bones, and names like Vegarian, Baelar, Rhaenith, Targaryen names, Jon. Centuries old." Jon stepped back. "That's impossible." "No, Jon. That's why your father, why Ned, never wanted you to know who you are. Because you're not just a Targaryen." Sam's next words felt like a blade against Jon's chest. "You're the last of the northern Targaryens. The hidden line, the outpost, the Stark blood was always tainted, mixed. A pact, Jon, a pact sealed in blood after the fall of Harrenhal. The North didn't fight off the dragons, they married into them." Jon felt the ground shift beneath him. "You're saying Winterfell belonged to the Targaryens?" Sam nodded. "It still does." Jon looked at the tombs around him. Lyanna, Rickard, even Eddard. Were these graves really graves, or monuments to a lie? A lie so old and so deeply buried no raven dared speak it. "Why?" Jon whispered. "Why would they lie?" "Because the North needed to feel free, to trust the wolves, not the dragons. But dragons have been watching the North for hundreds of years, Jon, and now that they're almost extinct, you're all that's left." Jon couldn't sleep that night. The wind howled like wolves outside the castle walls, and the stones of Winterfell felt colder than they ever had. Every torch cast strange shadows, and every memory now felt tainted, twisted into something he couldn't trust. Ghost rested near the fire, eyes alert, as if he too sensed the shift in the air. Jon stood at the window of his chambers, the moonlight casting a silvery glow over the courtyard. He used to find comfort here, safety, but now even the walls whispered. Winterfell, his home, his fortress, was no longer his. A Targaryen outpost. It made no sense. He remembered growing up in the shadows of Stark children, always told he was less. A bastard. Now to learn he might have been more, but of a bloodline that brought fire and madness across Westeros. What did that make him? In the morning, he demanded to see the crypt again, this time with tools and torches and men who asked no questions. He, Sam, and a small group descended into the dark, pushing deeper than anyone had dared before. The deeper they went, the colder. It grew, but not the kind of cold Jon knew. This cold had something else in it, a deathly silence, a weight, like the air itself had been holding its breath for centuries. They reached a sealed archway beneath the last known tomb. It was smooth black stone, veined with silver, not like the rest of Winterfell's ancient rock. Sam whispered that it was fused stone, the kind said to only come from dragonfire. Jon ran his fingers across it. The door was sealed, but not forever. When they broke through, the smell hit them first, damp and ancient. Inside, the room was large, circular, its walls etched with Valyrian script. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it a stone egg. Not just any egg, a dragon egg. Jon froze. Is it real? Sam nodded slowly, speechless. Around the room, faded tapestries hung in tatters, but one was intact enough to reveal its design, a silver wolf intertwined with a red three-headed dragon. Not in combat, in union. A crest, Sam murmured, not known in the south, likely never seen outside this chamber. Jon stepped back, heart pounding. His mind screamed against the idea, but everything about the chamber confirmed it. This wasn't a tomb. It was a temple. To dragons. Sam found a book sealed in wax and wrapped in old leather. He opened it with trembling hands. "It's a record," he whispered. "From Baelor Targaryen, third son of Aegon the Conqueror." Jon stared at him. "He died during the storming of Dorne." Sam shook his head. "That's what they said. But this book tells a different story. He was sent north with his dragon to build trust, to marry into the Starks. And this," Sam gestured to the room, "was his sanctuary." Jon felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air. He stared at the egg. It hadn't hatched in centuries, maybe never, but he felt something when he looked at it. A pull, a kinship. Then Sam read aloud the last passage of the journal. "One day our blood shall awaken again in the north, not with fire alone, nor ice, but both. The child of two worlds shall rise when dragons are no more and wolves cannot rule." Jon stepped away, heart hammering. That's a prophecy." Sam nodded grimly. "And it sounds like you." Jon wanted to scream. He didn't ask for this, didn't want it. He had killed Daenerys to stop madness, and now he was being dragged back into dragon dreams and ancient pacts. The world had already suffered enough from Targaryens. He turned toward the exit. "Seal this place. No one is to know. Not yet." "But Jon," Sam protested, "seal it." Ghost growled lowly, as if echoing his master's unease. Jon knew what this meant. If the South ever learned that the North had Targaryen roots, especially through him, the fragile peace would shatter. He wasn't ready to claim a throne of lies. Not again. But he also knew something else, something deeper than politics or prophecy. That dragon egg had responded to him, and whatever slumbered in the blood of the North, it was waking. The snows returned harder that week, as if winter itself tried to bury what had been uncovered. Jon stayed quiet, his mind churning while the North went on, believing he was still just Jon Snow, the brooding bastard turned reluctant hero. Only Sam and Ghost knew what had been found beneath the crypts, and Jon intended to keep it that way. He stared at the sealed chamber door every night now, torch in hand, wondering if opening it had started something they couldn't stop. The dragon egg hadn't cracked or stirred, yet he felt it. Every day it pulsed stronger in his dreams, heat creeping into the cold, whispers he didn't understand, in a tongue older than even Valyrian. It wasn't until the Raven came from White Harbor that he realized the rest of Westeros was not so silent. The message was short. Whispers in Old Town. Targaryen line still alive. Rumors tie it north. Caution urged. Signed only, a friend of your father. Jon crushed the note in his fist. Had someone in the Citadel discovered the text Sam had taken? Or worse, had someone spoken? He didn't trust many. Even less now. Later that night, while reviewing the old Targaryen book again, Sam found something else. A diagram hidden inside the spine. A second chamber beneath Winterfell, far older than the Dragon Sanctuary. It was marked with a single Valyrian rune. Jon stared at it for a long time. What does it mean? Sam looked uneasy. The flame that waits. They went down again that night, alone. Ghost led the way, his instincts sharp in the growing unease. Jon felt it too. Something had shifted in Winterfell. The air didn't feel right. The stones no longer just held heat or cold. They breathed. The diagram led them to a wall deeper in the crypts, past even the dragon egg room, a blank slab of stone, ancient and cold. When Jon touched it, the stone responded with a low hum. Then the runes began to glow. A pulse, slow and deep, then another. Jon's breath caught. The wall melted. Not like ice, like fire had licked it into nothingness, revealing a staircase descending into red light. The walls flickered with ancient torches that lit themselves. Jon drew his sword. Sam stayed back. Down the stairs he went, the heat increasing. At the bottom he found what could only be called a throne room, carved from stone and glass and obsidian, molten veins running through it like it was alive. And in the center sat a throne. Not the Iron Throne, not the kind meant for a king of Westeros. This was something older, wilder, a chair shaped like folded dragon wings, and in the center of the backrest, a wolf's head. Jon approached slowly. The heat was unbearable now, yet his body didn't sweat. It welcomed him. As he stood before it, a voice echoed, not in his ears, but in his mind. Blood of two houses, son of ash and snow, the balance has come. Jon fell to his knees, gripping his head. Visions hit him, cities burning, wolves howling, dragons flying, and a throne cracking under the weight of lies. Then a woman's face, not Daenerys, older, silver-haired, sad. She whispered his name, Aegon. Then silence. When he opened his eyes again, he was still alone. But the throne room wasn't empty. A figure had appeared behind it. Not quite man, not quite ghost, wearing black and red, crowned in obsidian. Jon rose slowly, hand on Longclaw. The figure spoke. Its voice was hollow and eternal. You came at last. Who are you? Jon demanded. I was the first, the outrider, sent north by Aegon the Conqueror to plant fire in the frost. I was forgotten, but I watched, through your eyes, through your blood. Jon's grip tightened. Why me? Because only the flame born of cold can tame what comes next. Oh, what's coming? Jon asked. The figure stepped forward, its eyes glowing red. The old fire was never meant to rule the world, only to keep it from the dark. But the dark has woken, and now so must you. The walls trembled. Jon turned to run, but before he could leave, the voice called again. Sit on the throne, Aegon Snow, or let the world burn without its final flame. Jon didn't sleep after that. The vision, the voice, the throne. It haunted him every step he took. Even Ghost avoided that part of the crypts now, growling low any time they neared the hidden stairway. Whatever power had been buried beneath Winterfell wasn't content with silence anymore. He hadn't told Sam about the figure, or the voice that called him Aegon Snow. He didn't know how. What would Sam say? That Jon was cursed? Destined? Or worse, mad? Every time Jon closed his eyes, he saw the red-eyed shadow watching him. Its voice rang in his head at random, like it knew when he doubted himself. Balance must return. Fire cannot reign. Ice cannot rule. You are both. He hated it, hated the pressure, hated the legacy he never asked for. All he wanted was peace, maybe a quiet death in the snow. But peace wasn't something men like him were ever allowed, so he turned to the only thing that ever gave him clarity: war planning. The North had begun hearing whispers too, not just of Jon's lineage, but of something moving beyond the wall. Wildlings spoke of fire in the frost, creatures that weren't wights or walkers. Ashborne, they were called, black-skinned monsters that left trails of smoke behind them, but never melted snow. Jon knew then. The throne had warned him of this. The dark was coming again. He called a council. Sansa was wary. Arya was missing, off chasing something in the east. Bran had long disappeared into whatever realm the three-eyed raven called home. That left only the northern lords, Davos and Sam. Even Tormund had come back down from the north when he heard of the Ashborne. Jon stood at the head of the table. "We prepare the North for war," he said bluntly. "Against what?" asked Lord Manderley. "The South is in ruins. The Iron Throne is gone. Who threatens us?" Jon placed a scroll down, a drawing of an ashborne, charcoal-skinned, burning from the inside, eyes of cinders. "These do." The lords exchanged doubtful looks. Sansa leaned forward, her tone sharp. "You expect them to believe tales of new monsters after we just finished fighting the dead?" "They're not tales," Jon said, "and they're not dead. They're alive, something new, something older than dragons and White Walkers, both." Sam stepped in. "They come from the deep earth. We found references in Valyrian texts, fire spirits born during the doom of Valyria, when magic broke the world. And why would they come now?" asked a northern bannerman. Jon paused. "Because I woke them." That silenced the room. Sansa's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" He told them what he could, about the hidden chamber, the throne, the warnings, the ancient pact buried in Winterfell's foundations. He didn't mention the figure or the voice. Some truths were too heavy to share yet. When he finished, half the room looked ready to hang him. The other half stared like he was some ghost returned from the stories. "You're saying you're a Targaryen and something else?" Lord Glover scoffed. "Convenient." Jon faced him. "I never wanted the name, never wanted fire or blood, but it's mine. And what I found down there, it proves the North was never free of the dragons. We just forgot." Sansa remained quiet, her face unreadable. Then she spoke. "Even if everything you say is true, what now? We fight. With what? The realm is broken." "We don't have a choice," Jon replied. "If these things reach Winterfell, they'll destroy everything. They burn and rot at the same time. They're coming." "How do you know?" Davos asked. Jon looked out the frosted window. "Because I feel them." Later that night, he returned to the throne room beneath the crypts. Alone. The figure was waiting again. "You spoke," it said. "You awakened the blood slowly. Good." "I didn't come for prophecy," Jon said. "I came for answers." "Then ask." Jon stepped forward, fists clenched. "What are the Ashborne?" "They are the children of unchecked fire, created when dragons died and magic fractured. You were meant to stop them long ago, but your line was buried in lies." "Why me?" Jon shouted. "Why not Daenerys or Aegon the Conqueror? Why bury the answer here, in me?" "Because you are both. Ice and fire, the only one who can command them both, and the last with blood untainted by madness." Jon stared at the throne. "And if I refuse?" The room darkened, the flames dimmed. "Then Winterfell will burn, the North will fall, and the world will belong to the ash." The skies over Winterfell had turned a strange hue, still grey, still clouded, but now with flickers of red at the horizon, as though the sun itself burned through the cold with a fever. Jon stood atop the battlements, his cloak whipping in. The wind, Ghost sat beside him, ears up, muscles tensed. Reports had begun to trickle in. Small wildling villages reduced to smouldering craters in the snow. Travelers burned from the inside out, skin flaking like embers. And the air, people said it was changing, thinner, more brittle, like the world itself was drying out. Tormund had returned 2 nights ago from a trek near the Shadow Pass. His face, normally marked with laughter and bravado, now bore the weight of a man who'd looked into something unholy. "They're not just burning things, Jon," Tormund had said, gripping him by the shoulder. "They're making the snow scream." Jon hadn't asked for clarification. He didn't want it. Now he stood watching the smoke in the distance. Far beyond the tree line, a slow-moving line of darkness. The ashborne were coming. Sansa joined him at the wall, her cloak rich with stark sigils. "The lords are restless," she said. "They should be terrified," Jon replied. "You're making decisions without them, without me." He turned to her. "Do you believe I'm lying?" "I believe you think you're telling the truth." That hurt more than he thought it would. "I've seen the egg, Sansa. I've heard the voice. I've sat on the throne hidden beneath our home, and I've seen what's coming." Sansa stared at him, eyes hard. "You say you're the only one who can stop it, but what if the fire changes you, like it did Daenerys?" Jon looked down. "I'm already changing." She turned away, disgusted. "Then maybe you should leave. Take your destiny and go south, or wherever these monsters came from. Don't drag the North into another Targaryen war." Jon's voice was low, steady. "This isn't a war for thrones. It's a war for existence. You can trust me, or you can wait until they knock down our gates." Before Sansa could respond, a horn blasted from the outer watchtower. The cry of warning. The ashborne had arrived. Jon sprinted down the stairs as soldiers scrambled into position. Fires were lit, gates barred. The old trebuchets creaked into motion. Archers lined the ramparts, but it wasn't a full assault. Not yet. What came first was a whisper, a sulphurous wind. The snows melted in unnatural patterns, curling like burned paper. The sky above them turned from ash-grey to ember orange, and then they saw it. One figure walking toward the gate, alone. Jon stood at the front, longclaw in hand. The figure stopped 50 feet out. Its body looked like twisted stone and charred bone, glowing from within like a dying coal. It had no eyes, just 2 empty sockets leaking smoke. It spoke, though its mouth didn't move. "Aegon Snow," Jon tightened his grip. "We are the consequence. The price of fire wielded without wisdom, and you are the heir of both sins." "What do you want?" Jon shouted. "The world, burned clean." Jon stepped forward, ignoring the cries of his men. "Then come and take it." The ashborne tilted its head, then laughed, a horrible cracking sound like lava splitting rock. "Soon, but not tonight. First, you must know." Suddenly the ground split beneath Jon's feet. The world blurred, time fractured. He fell, not into a pit, but into memory, a vision. He stood in the courtyard of Winterfell, but centuries ago. No towers, no walls, just a single structure, the old hall. And there, standing beside a weirwood tree, were 2 figures. A stark man cloaked in black, and beside him, a woman with silver hair, her eyes violet, a baby in her arms. Jon stepped closer. The baby had his face. The woman whispered, "Aegon, the peace between our bloods. Let him never know his burden." Then the world shattered again. Jon was on the ground outside the gate. Ghost stood over him, growling. The ashborne was gone, and Jon knew what he had to do. He turned to Sam. "Bring the egg." The dragon egg pulsed with a heat that no fire could match. It radiated energy that made the stone beneath it quiver. Sam cradled it with heavy gloves, as if it might bite through the leather. Jon stared at it in the war chamber, surrounded by lords who still didn't understand the weight of what was unfolding. Sansa refused to attend this time. She had retreated into silence. trying to preserve the North's sovereignty even as reality chipped away at it. Tormund leaned over the egg. "You sure it won't hatch and bite one of us in half?" "It won't hatch," Sam said. "Not until it chooses, if it ever does." Jon said nothing. He knew it would. Just as it had responded to him in the chamber, just as it had whispered heat into his skin when he touched it alone. The ashborne were massing. Scouts had seen more of them now. Dozens, hundreds, not charging, but watching, gathering the land. Around them blackened and cracked. Trees had started dying in patches. It was like their very presence infected the world. The North had only days. Jon stood before the egg, alone again, in the crypt chamber. The old throne sat behind him, quiet, watching. He placed both hands on the egg. Nothing. He closed his eyes and did what he had refused to do all his life. He embraced the name. "I am Aegon Targaryen, son of Rhaegar, blood of fire and of ice. If you are part of me, then answer." For a moment, nothing. Then light. The egg cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically. It split like a whisper. A line of gold-red light across its surface. Then another. Then a small, ember-skinned creature crawled out, steaming and slick. It wasn't a true dragon. Not yet. It was something smaller, older, its wings only half-formed, its eyes glowing with ember gold. But when it looked at Jon, it purred like firewood catching flame. The connection was instant. The room grew hot. The torches flared. The obsidian throne glowed. Jon fell to his knees as memories not his own flooded in, memories of ancient Valyria, of beasts that once tore the skies open, of Winterfell being offered as sanctuary to a line of dragons who could not stay in the south. He saw his ancestors, half Stark, half Targaryen, keeping the bloodline hidden, waiting for the balance to return. Then he saw what the ashborne truly were, the doom's backlash, a sickness, a punishment, the side effect of fire used without restraint, and they were here now to finish the reckoning. When he returned to the war table, the lords fell silent as the creature perched on his shoulder, its eyes glowing softly. "What is that?" Glover asked, horrified. Jon looked him, dead in the eyes. "Hope." They prepared for war, but Jon knew brute force would not win this battle. He knew the ashborne fed on chaos, on fear. He remembered the words of the shadowed figure. Only the flame born of cold can tame them. Jon needed to give them something they couldn't consume, something they didn't understand. So he did what no Targaryen had ever done. He reached out, alone, under the same tree his mother had once stood beneath in his vision. He called to them. "I am Aegon of Winterfell," he said aloud, "born of dragon and wolf. You want to burn this world, but I will not let you." The ashborne appeared one by one, emerging from the dark like smoke made solid. He raised his hand. The tiny dragon on his shoulder growled. Jon didn't attack. He let them come. And when they did, the dragon leapt, wings unfurled, glowing. Brighter than any fire they had ever seen. It did not burn them. It absorbed them. One by one, the ashborne crumbled, not in pain, but in release. Like they'd been waiting for this. A way back. A balance restored. The last one, the one who had first spoken to Jon, knelt before him. The fire is finally tempered. Then it vanished. Winterfell stood quiet the next morning. The snow had returned, clean, untainted. The red skies were gone. Jon stood alone on the battlements, the small dragon curled asleep on his shoulder. Sansa joined him, eyes softer now. "Is it over?" she asked. Jon shook his head. "Not over, but changed." She looked at the dragon, then at him. "Will you leave again?" "I think I need to stay. The North may not trust dragons, but they trust me." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe there's hope for all of us." Jon looked out across the snow-covered fields, his home, his curse, his legacy. Aegon Snow, he whispered to himself, king of nothing, guardian of everything. And Winterfell, the old Targaryen outpost hidden for centuries, finally stood in the light of its truth.